college defense, primarily man-to-man. You'll see a little bit of 1-3-1 out of them, but when their defense is good, they're really good, like most teams. Let's see what their energy level looks like here early.
Well, here is Wesley Yates. That's what a lot of folks in this building were hoping to see last year from Yates, who was part of the program but never played, was injured.
You don't think Yates is thinking about that? And I'm sure they ran that play for him to get him going here, coming back home.
But Osobor can't put it through.
Got to keep an eye on, too, along with the injuries that Andy told us about, is Josh Cohen went out of the game the other night with a leg injury, was sick all week, only played 14 minutes. So let's see how he looks here early.
There's St. Thomas, who pulls up and hits.
Well, they need production from everybody, but including St. Thomas. Started the year great, filling up the stat sheet, kind of like Osobor does. A little bit of drop off the last couple games here, but a good start for him, knocking down that mid-range.
And Iheanacho, one of 2 Huskies to start every game this year.
Pretty good flow here early, both teams offensively. Expected a little more resistance from the defense early, but a good sign for both teams that have struggled at times offensively to get off to a good start.
Now, Thomas hit from there earlier just a moment ago, and he bags another one.
Well, I think USC and Eric Musselman knew, Aaron, that based on what happened the other night with Claude and the ball in his hands and getting in the lane so much, that he was going to be the number.
He's fallen for the Trojans.
Interesting. Great move by Eric Musselman, putting the ball in St. Thomas's hands more. Washington was expecting Claude. Haven't seen it yet.
Now, Claude began the last game against the Ducks 6 for 6 from the floor. Iheanacho hanging. Boy, that's a tough finish right there at the rim.
We're seeing some good individual offense right now, guys. This defender puts it up off the window.
Wilhelm Breidenbach out for the Huskies. Louis Courtwright, senior transfer out of Rhode Island, takes the floor for the first time.
Cohen, early exit too. That's why I said earlier, keep an eye on him because of what happened on Wednesday night against Oregon. Good matchup here. Diallo and Yates.
Harris kicked it, and it's picked up by Claude. Ball in his hand, 3 to shoot now. This 2 on the shot clock. I'm not sure he knows it. Nope. I don't think he does, clearly.
Well, what's interesting is what USC did. They didn't auto double that. They let him put it on the ground. What's the trigger? I think once he gets into a certain area, that's when the double comes. And especially, they knew that it was a late clock for Osobor, so they didn't have to come double. Weren't sure if he was aware, like you mentioned. He wasn't aware of the shot clock.
We mentioned 2 new head coaches. Eric Musselman.
But still, that was the kind of talk and chatter about St. Thomas because he was putting up big numbers at Northern Colorado. And look, 2 years ago, no one thought Dalton Knecht would do what he would do when he went to Tennessee. And now, obviously, what he's doing with the Lakers. But still, Thomas was a big-time scorer at Northern Colorado when Dalton Knecht was there.
Well, and here's the thing, Andy. You see the numbers, and I can see why people would say that. But what sets Knecht apart from St. Thomas is the perimeter shooting. Dalton Knecht is a really, really good three-point shooter, highly rated. I mentioned the eye test. He looks the part. Now it's about understanding the game, decision-making, and becoming a more consistent perimeter shooter, which is basically the case for every freshman in the country.
One of the highest-ranked recruits for the Huskies in a number of years, recent years at least. Former McDonald's All-American. And 3 won't fall through for Rashawn Agee, so he is on the floor. He was questionable with back spasms.
This season, Abbott and Big Ten are pitting school against school to fight the largest blood shortage in a generation.
By State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Oregon, 30 minutes, no points, 0 for 6, and today already 8 points.
I'm sure it was talked about. I mentioned right off the top that there's been a little bit of drop-off for him after starting the year really strong. So nice to see him kind of bounce back into it.
This season, Abbott and Big Ten are pitting school against school to fight the largest blood shortage in a generation.
By State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Oregon, 30 minutes, no points, 0 for 6, and today already 8 points.
I'm sure it was talked about. I mentioned right off the top that there's been a little bit of drop-off for him after starting the year really strong. So nice to see him kind of bounce back into it.
And it rolls in for Makai Mason.
That's what happens when a guy like Agee is so concerned about Osobor. He gets on the wrong side in a wide open layup because of that.
Yates pulls up. Wesley Yates, his second triple. And by the way, not a surprise, his first start of the season comes here tonight.
Oh, you don't think that was a coincidence, Aaron?
You know, it is interesting. We know both these teams are kind of looking to find it early on, and USC is
leading the offense. I've already said it here tonight. Their defense has to be good to create some offense. And Abo feeling it now. They got a few guys going now. St. Thomas, Abo, Wesley Yates. So now Washington's got a problem. Down 16. Can they turn these guys off?
Now USC is hitting from everywhere, behind the arc and inside as well. They're shooting over 70%.
USC. It seems to be a bit of a shift. Like the other night, it was attacking mismatches like they like to do. And if you don't get to the foul line or you don't make it in the paint, your offense gets a little stagnant. Today, the ball is moving more. Guys are getting cleaner looks on the perimeter.
Christian King, number 7 in white, checks in for the first time. Jace Butler as well on the floor for the Huskies. He hasn't played the last couple of games.
Danny Sprinkle.
Now 5 to shoot for the Trojans. Agee battling.
Iheanacho trying to keep Agee out of the paint. That's attacking those mismatches that I've already said a couple times, Aaron. Like when they see one, they go right to it.
I mentioned Breidenbach at 6'8", who has a touch up top now. Remember, the Huskies are without Frank Kepnang for the 7th straight game. They're close to 7-foot big man who had a very minor knee procedure. He's hoping to be back.
Done a better job of is not letting Claude get to his right hand tonight.
Now Breidenbach showed up, but the bucket good nonetheless. St. Thomas in double figures now. First in the game for either side.
Eric Musselman has to be happy that it looks like St. Thomas is getting back on track here.
Butler had a little space clear out. And a shot puts it in. Breidenbach cleans it up.
Not as concerned, even though they only have 20 points with 5:20 to go in the half. Really, to me, watching
on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Earlier today, right around the time this game began, that USC women's game wrapped up against Oregon. USC ended up winning that game over the Ducks. Watkins fouled out, but 21 points. That on the heels of a 40-point effort earlier in the week when she set the new program record. She made 9 triples. She was 9 for 11 from behind the arc.
Yeah, this just in, Aaron. Juju Watkins is pretty good.
For more great analysis, stay tuned for the second.
It's been really good, and the Washington defense hasn't been good enough, obviously. It's not like USC plays super fast, you know, like really pushing it, fast breaking team. And we got 41, and we're not at the under 4 timeout yet.
11 of those 41 points coming off 9 turnovers for the Dogs. They got them both. He's in double figures with 10.
He can win. There's probably going to be more ups and downs by the end of the season, and then moving ahead to next year, way more ups than downs.
Osobor gets the second. When you saw a familiar face to his left, at least familiar to those fans here in Seattle, Will Conroy, longtime assistant and associate head coach eventually for the Huskies under Mike Hopkins. He's now first year on the coaching staff with USC with Musselman.
2 former Huskies.
Yeah.
Quincy Pondexter over there as well. Former Washington great free throw shooter for sure,
yes,
but only 27% from behind the line. I think that will go up.
Claude hanging and finishing. You can count it and one.
Well, that's just miscommunication and not attention to detail with the defensive game plan. As we were here at shoot around, and that was priority number 1 was Desmond Claude, and getting the ball out of his hands or making him do things he doesn't want to do, and that's just a straight line drive to the rim.
A funny, frustrating first half for Danny Sprinkle and the Huskies. Both teams looking for their first conference win. UW losing earlier in the week at UCLA. Eric Musselman of the Trojans, they led for 30 minutes at home against number 12 Oregon. But the Ducks pulled away with a win in that one. How vital he is to the Huskies this year. Here's a three, no whistle as Davis fell. And the crowd wants a foul on that. Claude skip pass. Looked like maybe an extra step on Yates, but it's not called. Wasn't there apparently. It's a dozen for Wesley Yates here in the first half.
Just not good enough for UW. Transition defense, that can't happen. Wide open layups.
And another miss at the rim from Osibor.
I say UW might as well just take this all the way down. Last thing you want is USC to get another look at it. See those hands? Got really good hands.
Denied at the rim.
If we could get a shot, Laurie Brooks, our director, of his hand somehow. His hands are abnormally big, and so you talk about shooting with him, only shooting 55% from the free throw line. Guys with abnormally big hands sometimes struggle to
chip away deficit. That's going to be what they're going to, only way to really get back into this. Offensively, they're going to have to make threes. Great Osibor is going to have to play through it. He's been frustrated, missed those dunks, and he's going to have to play through it if they're going to get back into this game and finish at the rim.
I like this approach defensively when they throw it into Osibor from USC. They're not going immediately, which puts your defense in rotation. See what he does. See if he can get deep, and then once you feel like the primary defender's in trouble, then you go. And I think that foul. It just makes offense, Aaron, so difficult when you're just trying to ISO game it when you're down this much. And give Diallo credit. Stuck with it, missed the first one, got the second one back and got fouled. But their offense isn't easy right now. Why? Because they're not able to play through Osibor. And so then it just becomes guys trying to beat their guy that's guarding them. And these big wings for USC, that's the reason why they're big. It's not by coincidence. Eric Musselman, I've said it.
Positionless, but they are lacking that true playmaker.
Well, and that's why Desmond Claude has had some ups and downs here early. He played off the ball at Xavier last year. He's Biggie's most improved player in the league, but wasn't on the ball. He was more of a catch and shoot guy, move off it, and he's tried to transition to playing more on the ball.
And that touches every bit of the rim, and Diallo is able to get it to fall through. This is second made three this season. Yeah, you look at this USC roster back. Third time this year with 14 points. Goes right to feed. Osibor able to rattle it through. So back-to-back trips with Osibor.
You don't want to let him get started because he can score in bunches, Osibor. So a little surprised USC isn't coming with that second defender we've been talking about all night.
Osibor on AG. Abo. AG and a foul. Harris very quiet in the first half.
Really quiet.
He's been in double figures 6 of 8 games so far this year. Coming off his first double-double. Doesn't draw iron. Diallo off the mark.
When you're not expecting to play, or you have something bothering you so you might not play, what happens? Your expectation level comes down, and that's when you play free and you play well. And I think that's exactly what's happening with AG here tonight.
He's been dealing with back spasms. Yates gives it up and fouls. Yeah, he's tapping his chest. And a 2-for-1 right there. Turnover and a foul.
Well, you wonder what a game like this does. We still got 14 minutes to go, but you wonder what a game like this does for USC's confidence. You heard Muss talking at halftime to Andy about they've been waiting for one of these breakout games for the lid to come off, and this is obviously one of those games. And so what does it do for them moving forward? They go back. Obviously, these first 2 Big Ten games for all the teams in the league early December, but then they go back to non-con.
Make it 10 now for the Dogs.
Which you would think, Aaron, with this score, that they'd have way more than 10 turnovers.
Right. Just everything has
missed shots is what it's been more than anything.
And everything's been falling for the Trojans as Thomas backs down and fades. Oh, what a night it has been for St. Thomas.
He's good at that. Again, the size, the length, going to
be a team on the floor that deserves it and has a team that can basically earn that. And when that happens, this will be one of the toughest home courts in the Big Ten.
Yeah, the early days of Mike Hopkins, as there's a little chip shot that goes in for Asabor. Don, you remember coming here in those days.
Oh, yeah.
This place was sold out. It was an incredible atmosphere.
And I'm telling you, in the early 2000s, when Will Conroy was playing here, it was the best building in the Pac-12 by far. And that included...
There was not a single returning player on the floor for USC. And they're looking pretty well connected tonight, all that being said. And last touch on Asabor. It is Trojans ball. Well, Tuesday, the Huskies men's basketball team, they are right back on their home floor. The matchup against Eastern Washington. Coverage begins at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific, only on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app.
Speaking of upcoming...
Andy, do you have inside information on this?
I don't. I would think that a number of the fans are chartering, so possibly. But, Don, I'm going to tell you right now, I got Oregon as the favorite in the Big Ten. I don't know if you agree with me, but I think Oregon right now is in the pole position to be the Big Ten champ.
I don't disagree with you, but where was that statement 2 months ago before the game started, Cats? You can't just jump in now and say.
Although I will say very well, and he's had a phenomenal transfer season from Yale, who, by the way, beat Auburn up in Spokane behind Wolf in the NCAA tournament last year, and that combination of Golden and Wolf. Golden coming over with Dusty May from FAU, and that's been quite a 1-2 punch for the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, I got to spend a few weeks with Danny Wolf last summer. Came out to our gym and mixed in with our pre-draft guys and other, we call them NIL players, guys that are going back to college that come out to work out. And we especially, still the no turnover thing applies, obviously.
Five of the shot clock.
So good at that. Claude is so good at that. That hesitation, freeze the defender, and then push it through. The one thing is, Washington's actually done a decent job of making him go left tonight. Well, watch this. See that? Watch the film. I don't know what you do with this one. But hopefully Danny Sprinkle and his group can get back on track the next 4 games before Maryland comes in here right after the first of the year.
Fewest points the Huskies have scored this year is 53. That came their second game of the season against Nevada. Thomas backing down Christian King. Husky ball.
You just hope, finish that point I started earlier about, you just hope that this doesn't have a lasting impact on this Washington team. Sometimes when you
looked at this game coming into it, both teams that have had their struggles. USC got off to a great start, has scuffled recently. Neither team has really shot the ball all that well. Both teams losing their first game in conference play, but both teams were in those games. For UW, it was at UCLA, and for USC, it was at home against number 12 Oregon. And I don't think anybody saw this lopsided of a game coming.
But again, we go back to what we've been talking about from the start, Aaron. How many new players?
Yeah. We got a little MJ palms up. I don't know. It just went in.
Off the backboard, though, straight away, Aaron.
Can't script that one.
No.
Mason, you can count it a chance for 3. When you're hot, you're hot. Thomas's first. Claude Dunn now. Isaiah Elohim comes back on the floor. Some limited minutes for the freshman. Under 2 to play now.
The Huskies are now in double bonus. Mason Washington.
Gets the first. Number 1 Michigan State faces off with Wisconsin in our Saturday night hockey showdown. We just heard the guys talking about this. The puck drop.